collaborate, work with, and I think possibly find common ground. Or if we don't find that common ground, we go in a different direction than they do, having had the discussion and the dialogue. I believe that we will garner respect from them, and we certainly will respect what they have. But protecting those natural areas, sustaining them, the same for our working lands. We have so many important natural areas in this state, all the different ecosystems, all the variety. It's our watch, and we've got to take care of them. So that's a part of it. Our natural attractions. We have such wonderful assets. The aquariums, David. Where are you, David? What's the answer to the question? Is it A, B, or C? It's David. The zoo. Our Museum of Natural Science. Our EPA Commissioners meeting was held in the boardroom of the museum. Betsy graciously allowed us to come up there and take over her space for basically 2 days. And my visitors from South Carolina and Tennessee and Florida and Alabama, all of the states from the southeast, they were just amazed at the asset that we have there in terms of the museum. We made a presentation to them on Green Square. Jill Powell did a great job and shared with them what our vision was for this agency's new home and where we would live, and the advancement of nature research in the form of the Nature Research Center. And they were just blown away with what we were doing. Of course, they wanted to know how we were paying for it. And as soon as the word 2/3 bonds was mentioned, they kind of glazed over. What's that? How could we get some of those? Really important to sustain, improve, advance these assets. There are specific goals in there from adding a continent at the zoo to adding another aquarium. Now, we're talking about things that cost a lot of money in a time that there is no money. But there will be a day when we'll cycle back around and there will be the assets to do this. So just because today is tough doesn't mean we stop the vision and we stop dreaming for things that are much better. Lastly, 2 areas, and the last 2 focus areas. One is more effective regulation, and the other is the customer services piece. How as an organization do we improve? Now you'll note there are 2 of those. 2 of 8. So here you are. You have a full 1/4, if I'm doing my math right, of our 8 focus areas concentrating on how we do business. Let's talk about effective environmental regulation. And I like the picture that strolls on the scene of this inspector walking up the stream, looking. This is an area I think that we could garner great benefit from. If we are successful in taking in a direction, having a situation where if a legislator approaches a person that deals with us all the time and says, well, okay, what do you think about DENR? What's the answer going to be? If that answer is, I can do business with those folks, they'll work with you. I don't always get the answer I want, but they're professional, they do a good job, and we respect them. I think that'd be a neat thing. If that were generally the answer, you're always going to get a variety of answers. I'm not looking for the proposition ideally that, man, they're the greatest ever. I don't know that that's realistic and in the cards, but I certainly don't want it to be 5 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10 when they're asked the question. I can't deal with those people. They're out here somewhere. And there are a lot of measures in there that we talk about that I think have the potential of reaping great benefit for us. And on the customer services side of it, Edith is going to do all that by herself. And she can do it too. Really important. Sometimes it grows old to say, well, we've got to treat our customers well. Well, we do. I've always been a student and practitioner of government, but I've also always tried to pay attention to what the private sector is doing and the changes in organizational theory and organizational practice. And it like anything, it goes in cycles, and there was a time where total quality management and continuous improvement, all those wonderful advancements in the way of thinking of doing business were truly in full swing and in vogue, and people were really buying into it and going forward. And then as the economy kind of turned and the politics became really caustic, it seemed like those notions have abated. And you go and just take the banking industry, for example. Look at what happens with credit cards. Now they're talking about those of us that pay our bills off every month and don't carry a balance. They're going to reward us. They're going to charge us a fee for having a credit card. Really great customer services. Or if they're not doing that, they're going to, the first time you are late on a payment, or because you may have, in the economy, lost your job, they're going to change your interest rate from 12% up to 25%. In my opinion, highway robbery is certainly not good customer services. But that seems the mindset not only of the banking industry, but a lot of businesses. It just seems like it's gone back the other way, and all these other things that were touted and the initiatives that were put forth that have great validity, I think, in continuous improvement particularly, has just kind of been discarded, and I think that's a mistake. I think it's a real mistake. So for us, and the time that I have to share with you, our focus is going to be on that former, and that's the direction I would like to go and would like to communicate to everyone. I think the total body of work in this document here, if we can accomplish just a small fraction of it in the next 4 years, we will have done a really good job. The other thing that I hope, and I know politics sometimes intervenes, oftentimes intervenes, and doesn't make it possible. But I think there's the genesis and the basis here in this document to serve this agency for much longer than 4 years. If we're really engaged on the issue of climate change and the green economy, there's enough work there for a decade, 2 decades. I mean, it's just there and ready to be undertaken. Air and water are always going to be with us. That continues, I think, forever. I don't ever envision a time that we can take our eye off that ball. So it's really important. And I'm already going over. I also find when I talk, I go over my time. Since I'm standing between you and lunch, I'm going to pause right here. I'm going to invite questions. This is just a very general, broad stroke of my thinking, the strategic plan, from the vantage point of the 8 focus areas, prefaced by the mission, the vision, some of the values that are included in that. This, for me, is very real. It's something that I'm going to concentrate on. I use this document as the basis for my comments to groups, and I have talked to a lot of them. So one of the things that's going to happen as I move around and I talk to groups, I'm raising levels of expectation that not only are we going to talk about it, we're going to do something about it. And that's